Always remember this. It's your choice to be the king. Y'all ready to go to key number 2? Somebody say, let's go in the chat. Let's go. Let's go. You hear me? So key number 2. Woo! This is good. This is good for me, man. I love kicking in with y'all every Thursday, man. Key number 2 is coming out of 1 John 5, 1 through 5. 1 John 5, 1 through 5. Go ahead and write that down in the chat. All right, here we go. Everyone who believes in Jesus, that Jesus is the Christ, is born of God. Listen to this. And everyone who loves the Father loves his child as well. This is how we know that we love the children of God, by loving and carrying out his commands. In fact, this is love for God, to keep his commands. And his commands are not burdensome. For everyone that's born of God overcomes. Listen to this. So I was telling y'all, you don't have to struggle with some stuff that you're supposed to have victory over. Do you hear me? But the reason why that victory is not coming, because we need to do this first. Do you hear me? First, key number 1, believe in Jesus. Second, do this verse. Here we go. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. Who is it that overcomes this world? Only the one who believes that Jesus is the Son of God. I want to get this to y'all, fellas, because the first platinum standard is this: being men that's after the heart of God. So that's what we're talking about tonight. We tapping into platinum standard number 1, how to be a man that's after the heart of God. And the first way you get after the heart of God is you honor the sacrifice that God made for you in Jesus Christ. That's number 1. But number 2, fellas, number 2, after you've honored that sacrifice, after you believe and you rooted and you built up in him, you established in him, you're abounding there in thanksgiving. Why? Because you're walking in victory now. Do you hear me? You're walking in freedom indeed now. So now what do we do? What do we do now? Now we show our love and appreciation for him. How? By loving and obeying God. Somebody write that down. That's number 2. That's key number 2. We have to love and obey God. Do you hear me? We're talking about being men that's after the heart of God. I want y'all to hear this. Hear how important this is. Little David was a shepherd, right? And he was out, he was dirty, right? He was out there with the sheep. He was stinking, is that right? But his brothers, all his brothers, they came into the house with their dad, Jesse. And they went into the house and they was all cleaned up and they were all, done up. Is that right? And the prophet Samuel was looking for a man that was after God's own heart to actually pronounce as king, the next king of Israel. Do you hear me? So at the end of the day, God was looking for a man that was after his heart. Samuel looked at all of Jesse's boys, all his boys, but there was one of them wasn't even invited to the table. Come on, somebody. He wasn't even invited to the table. Why? Because he didn't have that outward appearance. Like he was looking at all of Jesse's boys, right? They was fired up. They was nice looking. They was tall, right? They had every outward appearance looking right. But what was not in place? What wasn't in place? The heart, man. The heart. God wasn't looking for nobody that was outward. He already dealt with that with King Saul. The people, they didn't honor God enough to say, like, listen, we want to be like other nations. We want to have a living king, right? We want to have a king over us, just like all the other nations. I remember when I used to go to Galilee Baptist Church, where I grew up at, up in Lansing, Michigan. And I remember when we went into church, there was a banner that was over the top when you went in. It says, enter to worship. And then on the way out, it said, leave to serve. Enter to worship, leave to serve. That's being the church. When you leave, guess what? You're doing key number 2. You're loving and obeying God. Fellas, that is the form of worship too. That's a form of letting God know. You can say all you want with your mouth. I love you, Father. I love you, God. I love you. But if God don't see I love you in your life, do you really love God? The number 1 gift that you can give to your family, the number 1 legacy that you can leave to your family, it don't got nothing to do with money. Money is good. Leaving money and leaving, assets and things like that for them, that's good. But what you deposit into them from the man of God that you are, that's what's going to last for eternity. That's what's going to last generation after generation after generation till Jesus come back. That's what's going to ensure that your generation is counted. That listen, that God knows your kids and your grandchildren and their grandchildren's name. Why? Because you passed down not just money, you passed down a spiritual heritage. You are a man of prayer. You are a man who was truly a man that was after the heart of God. You lived God's platinum standards. And how does that line up? My question to you is this. If you were in a courtroom, in the court of law, and we had to look at your life for the last 3 weeks, would you be convicted as someone who loved and obeyed God? I just want y'all to just take a listen at what we talking about tonight. Y'all here, we talking about platinum standard husband, is that right? Man, we ain't trying to be like the world. We ain't trying to be like everybody else. They doing their thing. They doing the cultural type of love. They doing the world type of love. And bro, I don't want no part of that. It's dangerous. And guess what? It's temporal. I played my part before Christ, but now in Christ. Now I know God. Now I believed in Jesus. Now I'm abounding with thanksgiving from the forgiveness that I received. So I have forgiveness to give and mercy to give. Do you hear me? And love to give. God's looking at your heart, and guess what? One of the things that he's looking to see, who's on the throne of your heart? Is it you? Is it your wife? Because a lot of times we could be in the pleaser mode and trying to be wife pleaser because we know that we done messed up, we done did some dirt, right? We just trying to please our wife now, right? Or win her back or whatever. That's all we probably saw coming up. Is somebody pleasing a woman? They're trying to please our wife. No, man. Your wife don't need you to please her. She needs you to please God. Because when you please God, you already automatically gonna please your wife. Why? Because at the end of the day, she needs you to be a man that's after God's heart. Why? Because when you after God's heart, he gonna give you the things that you need to do. He's gonna give you the strategies that you need to follow. He's gonna give you the plans that he has in his heart for you, plans to bring you to a good and expected end. And he's gonna show you how to love your wife. There may have been a pattern that your wife grew up with where she saw, listen to this, she saw women not honor men. So that was the way that she tries to handle situations and circumstances, but that's all she know. That's all she know. But if that's all she know, fellas, and you done looked at her mama, you done met her sisters, you understand? Well, guess what? Now you know how you can start to cultivate. You need to get some tools in your hand to start to cultivate something different. You hear me? But you need to display something different first. You need to display, right? Being quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to take offense. You need to display, right? Of making sure that you love her as Christ loves you. That means that you're forgiving. That means that you're a living sacrifice. You hear me? That means that you're not trying to defend yourself on every hand and every point. That's not loving. That's loving you. You hear me? That ain't loving her. If she wrong, okay, that's cool. She wrong. She might be wrong. Let her be wrong. Be fired up because she wrong. A soft word to break a bone. Have you thought about this? Bro, ain't that a lot better than what you talking about? You see what I'm saying? A soft word will break a bone. Soft word, fellas. Soft word. Because guess what? When she sees you loving and obeying God, she's going to see that you're loving her. You hear me? You'll love her better. Why? Because you know how. Why? Because God is showing you the way. Another way to love and obey God is what he said in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. He says, trust in me. Trust in me. Lean out to your own understanding, but in not only some of your ways, but all your ways. That's another way that you love God, in all your ways. He said, invite God into your life. You believe him, even Jesus, and not love God, invite him into your life. Invite him to our life. He knows that we know him, and he knows us, because we're taking the time to let him know that, man, you on the throne. You're on the throne. Help me through this. How do you want me to respond to this? Everything your wife says, it doesn't need your immediate response. And also, it doesn't need your immediate reaction. You hear me? What it does need is for you to discern what would honor God in the way to respond or the way to engage with his daughter. Right now, I see that there may be some trauma that's coming up, right? Some trauma that she maybe have dealt with that right now it's not working in our marriage, because it's not going to work for us. But how can I love her through this so that she can see my example and we can start, doing something different? Instead of getting upset, bro, look at what your wife really needs, bro. Because when we look at what our wives need, then we're not focused on ourselves. Like, I know she didn't just say it like that. I know her tone. Why she being so disrespectful? I ain't feeling what she's saying. You feel me? I'm talking about being kings. Now, if you want to stay the kid, that's cool. And guess what? Kids don't stay married long. You hear me? Because they're tossed to and fro about with every emotion, every wind. You hear me? Every wind that comes against their marriage. They over here. Oh, what? Okay. Oh, what you talking about now? Oh, you ain't ready for this smoke. You feel me? You don't want to be that guy. That's the kid, man. Be the king. Somebody put that in the chat. Be the king. Put that in the chat. Be the king. Do you hear me? How do you be the king? By loving and obeying God. Because that's what he called you to be. He called you to be the king. You hear me? Love and obey God. So right now we talked about key number 1 to the 3 keys to knowing that God knows you. 3 keys to knowing that God knows you. Key number 1, believe in Jesus. Key number 2, love and obey God. Let's dig into key number 3.